Hiya, and welcome to another slapdash episode of Junkcast. It's a DIY discussion where me, Cozy Spoon that is, and fantastical co-hosts talk and discuss all things comics making, battling, turning, and what have you. I am your loyal oogler of comics, Cozy Spoon, and with me is one other fellow junkie. Say hello to the people.
Hey, Pyras Terran here, back again at this.
Back again. I love it. And Red sends her apologies. She had a emergency DDR session to get to, so it's just the two of us. For those of you wondering why we're in your ear holes, we're back after a cool little break to hit you hard and fast with the glorious final round of the tag team tournament. As a brief refresher for those who are new and stumbled in here and are like, what's going on? What year is it? Pi, can you remind us what tag team tournament is?
The tag team tournament is a 2-on-2 bracket tournament that we have here in Intervoid. Two artists, each of them picks a character of theirs to go up against another team of two. Collaboration and teamwork is the key to winning this tournament.
Power of friendship is how you win. Alrighty. That said, let's tag team some discussion and get into the good stuff. Pi, who are the two lucky teams that made it to the bitter end?
Our lucky finalists were Winslow Osbo and Lev. Let's Rumble by Magistel and Pocket Mouse. And they went up against Anselin and Gwen and Reggie by Jade and Gregley.
We're going to go with Jade because I know that they go by two names on Void, which is Bobo and Jade. So to save on confusion, I'm just going to hop on the Jade bandwagon.
Got it.
Alrighty. Let's get into the crits. Let's get into the discussion. How about you start us off?
Okay, so we're starting with Jade and Gregley's side.
Heck yeah.
So, well, first off, this is sort of a comment for both of them. Congratulations to both sides for making light, wholesome comic finales, which in the history of tournaments is different and fresh from what we usually get.
Like, not to, back in our day, all these tournaments were very cutthroat and, it was a lot of high-flying action and tragedy and drama. These have to be pretty unique in how just heartwarming they were, like on both sides. And I don't think that was intentional.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they went into the back and said, listen, you guys, let's just make the cutest comics ever. Let's make this tag team to remember.
I think they just all had the spirit of friendship.
I know. It's really sweet. I loved it. But I digress. Continue.
So, Jade and Gregley, very nice colors. I'm impressed with how you worked with the how you worked into the background, into the characters. There's an expressive nature that matches with the coloring. Coming in from the last round, I was expecting a bigger event out of Anselin's declaration, but reading this finale a few times, I ultimately couldn't help but feel that nothing really happens of major importance to any of the characters. We've got this side story about Reggie worrying about what's going on there, but Reggie worrying is sort of a given. And
would you say that he's a worrywart character?
He's a bit of a worry bot.
I love worry bot.
And everything came pretty easy for Anselin in this comic. The inclusion of Winslow and Lev felt a little inconsequential with how quickly each one ended up getting placated.
That's fair.
They're only in for about 50% of the comic, and there's no real rule in how much of your opponent should be in the comic. But when the story feels weaker, you start to see these other cracks show as well.
I can see that. I can totally agree with that.
Yeah. That's pretty much the only note, though, I have. Everything else I really enjoyed about the comic.
Right? I really want to sort of jump on that color bandwagon. Like, this, first off, your guys' style's really saying on this final round. You really found your groove on the cute and cuddly, and I'm kind of here for it. And it's really neat because you took this in sort of a heartwarming avenue. So it was great to see your colors and the style kind of reflect that. I have to say that the whole choice of color palette was round to round, not just the final one, but each iteration that you guys have done has been my fave so far out of all the battles and contestants and tag teamery that we've experienced. It would be like, especially for the settings that you chose, it would have been so easy to make the city and the forest a series of dingy post-apocalyptic grays and blacks and greens, but you really let the surroundings reflect your character, and that really brightened the place up, and I loved it. Also, maybe it's Void itself coloring my perception, but I kind of love that you weren't really sure, maybe, that Anselin's rule is going to be a benevolent one. Maybe that's just me. Model deciding that she's just the queen of the city is like, you know, a big power move. But what is it? Reggie's concerns peppered throughout was not lost on me doing his whole worry bot thing. Like, she is delusional, but I'm intrigued to see where this goes. So, oh, Hade was the color master. A big nod to you. Let me see. I also noted that of the two battles, yours was the one that actually included a population and like people and crowds in the background and the foreground. I felt that there was a following organically forming from Anselin's soapbox to Winslow worrying that he offended the workers, breaking the homeless house pod. Like it felt lived in. It felt like the city was converging around this and the events that were going on. And it really helped sort of sell Anselin's like, I am your queen now, which I really appreciated.
Right. I agree with that.
Let me see. But I don't know. I guess I don't really have anything in the way of crits as opposed to agreeing with your opponents. I don't want to say that they were sidelined. They were easily just, I guess, yeah, we're cool with that. Give me coffee. I don't know. And I really wanted to see more of, not to be rude, but I was more interested in your characters and what they had going on. Like, Reggie's whole worry and speaking to Gwen and going, gee, do you think that Anselin's going off of the deep end? I wanted to see that expanded. I wanted to see a concern. Like, I get Gwen's sort of childlike, I don't care, let's get out of here. But I wanted to see more of that worry bots worry and whether or not they would manifest into some sort of action or a warning to somebody stronger to be like, hey, I'm worried about this lady. Maybe we should do something about her.
Yeah. And to clarify a bit of what I was saying earlier about feeling like nothing happening, when I say that, I don't necessarily mean that there has to be an action scene that they have to go through or a token problem that they have
for
to
sure.
solve. I
have a token problem.
It can be
if
something.
Only we were that lucky.
It can be something as simple as just showing a new side of a character that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, for sure.
That would make it worth reading. You always want to try and make sure that there's something new happening to either the character's physical plot or a new side of the character being shown that hasn't been shown in other comics.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm curious. When you first read this, maybe this is just how I read comics on the site, but what were your expectations on the first page? Did you go and make a guess and go, oh, I think that this team's going to do this thing?
Going into Jaden Gregley's, I did think that I had a feeling that they were going to go harder on the my thought was that they were going to go harder on the validity of her rule of her declaration.
I really wanted to see sort of a pushback on that, and I thought that the opponents of Winslow and Lev were going to be that sort of like obstacle or that sort of everyman to see just sort of the kinks in the armor or the veneer of how good it looks on the surface, but they see the underlying issues and sort of team up with Reggie. Like, that was my full expectations, but it sort of ended on a more placid note.
It's possible that it's set up for an upcoming tournament.
Oh, I hope it is. I mean, that's all I got. Like, I really enjoyed it, and there really isn't much to pick apart. You guys just were a fantastic team up, and I really enjoyed what you guys brought to the tournament. And a big congrats to you.
Congratulations, for sure.
Shall we move on?
Yes, it's time to go on to Magistel and Pocket Mouse's side of the comic, side of the battle. So, I'll say off the bat, I think it has a real nice conclusion that works well as the falling action for the last comic. and really helps unify the three comics of the run all together. It really feels like the last 5 to 10 minutes of a little movie that we saw between the three comics. I appreciate that everyone got a good amount of screen time. There's a general feeling of rush in some of the visuals, like the clouds and some of the recycled elements in the rubble. I imagine that time became an obstacle for you guys for this round, because there's a
when
couple
is
of
it
things
ever
where
for every tournament? Like that deadline. So
there's
is Lumen.
there's a couple of parts that aren't as polished as you guys normally dish out. The biggest critique for me would be word balloon placement and design in this comic. There were a few times that I actually got a little lost of who is meant to be speaking because of the word balloons' tails are so small and far away from their source. I actually mixed them up with other characters. For example, on panel 3 of page 4, I thought Reggie was speaking rather than Gwen. And then the next panel, I thought it was Anselin speaking, but it was actually Reggie. And then they have these very, very thin word balloon connectors that sometimes made it for a little more confusion. Like panel 2 of page 1, the connectors all got a little bit webby, and I had to squint a bit to figure out which one was going where from who.
You know, it's funny you should mention word bubble placement because, you know, by way of order, the opponents did something similar with this particular panel that I'm sharing right now, in which the dialogue was sort of backwards, but the way that it flowed, at least for me in this panel, it didn't leave me lost. I knew where to start and where to keep going because the flow worked with the angle of the panel and the way they had Anselin positioned.
Yeah, that's a very good example of how to do it if you got a lot that you have to say.
Yeah. And she had stuff to say. Yeah, but I think I know which panel you're talking about. There's like a quick back and forth between both of the characters on Mags and Pomo's side that I was just like, wait, what? Where do I start first?
Right. But that's really the biggest critique I have of it, because everything else just looks so good, and it was just
it's
really
funny
nice.
that you with Gregory and Jade's side that you felt that, and this isn't meant to be rude, that you felt that nothing was really happening. I felt the exact same thing with this side. Like I totally, when I started, got vibes with Lev and Winslow that this was sort of an extended epilogue, kind of like that final scene in Harry Potter. Like no spoilers, but it's just like you're just seeing people go about their day, and I was expecting sort of a big like what is the thing? Kind of like it reflected in Gregory and Jade's side where Anselin makes that huge announcement, and that was the thing. I was expecting something reflected on this side, but it felt more of like a content amble into the sunset as opposed to like a thing.
Well, if I remember correctly, in the last round, it ended with Winslow having saved the city, but also causing a lot of destruction, and he was very sad and stuff. And this picks up right where it ended, and you know, like what I was saying earlier about how you want something to change, either to change in their story or show a new side of them, either or. And we did get that in this comic. You know, Winslow is sad, and by the end, he is happy.
That is true. He was definitely the standout character for that tag team, because I feel that I know that character more than I know Lev, even though Lev spoke so much more. Let me see. As for what I have to say, I'm saying this in my Bernie Sanders voice. I am once again asking you to tell me how you rendered that building rubble. I am still not certain if it's a special brush, a texture, or you're just really painstakingly adding that extra oomph to your ruins. I couldn't get enough of it in round 2, and I couldn't get enough of it now.
I can actually help answer that question.
A big reveal.
There are some of these brushes here I do recognize. Clip Studio Paint comes with, and
can you recognize it by the pixels and having done a couple clips in your day?
I recognize it, having used some of it myself. We used some of these for Armageddon, actually.
Oh.
They have a couple of rubble brushes, and you can get other rubble brushes from their assets page, and
I like how we're just upselling Clip Studio now. Buy Clip Studio today.
Yeah, if you want easy to use rubble brushes that you can then modify a bit, however you need it to, Clip Studio Paint is definitely the program that will give you what you need in that regard.
There you
I
go.
think they use the brushes pretty effectively, even if you can notice them sometimes, but you could tell that they put their own work into it, so it's not just
And here I
straight up
am
copy
just
paste.
drawing my own rubble like a chump. I need to get Clip Studio, man.
Whatever tricks you can get to be faster, it's not really a big
Gosh,
deal.
ain't that the truth, man? Let me see. So this comic deals with the whole crew coming together and cleaning up their mess. And I saw the reasoning behind the cleanup, but at least for me, as I read it, I felt that it dragged a bit, and it left me wondering if this could have been better served as a montage, because I feel that it was the same purpose. And like the meat and the potatoes of this comic that I really wanted to see was Winslow, like post painted cell. Like, does Lev swing by? What's the end of all this mean for these two as pals? I wanted to see more of their relationship and just their friendship and the infusion of your opponents and how they factored. Like, that was the stuff that I was invested in. But we got the bulk of the comic just being them cleaning. And it's like, yeah, I'm glad that you guys are being good Samaritans and helping out the city, but I really wanted to see the development of those characters together further.
Yeah,
Also,
I understand that.
oh, go ahead.
No, I get what you're saying. That makes sense.
Oh, I thought you were going to debate me.
Oh, no, you're right. I mean, these two comics are really wholesome, but part of the issue when you go real wholesome is sometimes you go real simple.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that
the emotions here aren't very complex on either comic.
I don't know. I will halfway debate you on that, because I think that there are ways to be wholesome and not have a comic need to be violent, but still have it have like depth and complexity, especially when it comes to just character interaction.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, speaking of, that painted cell block, which was Winslow's little apartment, was such a breath of fresh air. It was such a visual way to show just love and care to a character that I don't think I've seen before in a comic, and it just made me smile when I got to that page. Like the established pages where you set the scene of the dreary apartment block and an even drearier apartment interior was a great way to dazzle us with such a visual depiction of cheer and friendship. I was left as open mouthed as Winslow's was. How utterly heartwarming the gesture was.
Yeah,
It's like these people are so pure.
It's genuinely one of the. It generally is one of the best ending scenes for one of these comics.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted more, and I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, right? Like, is it a good thing to be left wanting more because you're like, I just wanted to see more of these characters, or is it a bad thing? Like, does that mean that the story didn't measure up? I'm asking you, Pi. Answer my questions.
Well, I can't answer what's in your brain.
No, but suffice to say,
I was personally satisfied with where the story is and where it ends. I mean, I would like to see more, but I'm okay with where it is right now.
No, I personally want to see more from both characters and both pairs of artists. I think this was an end, but both of them were an end with like there could be so much more to it. And I don't know. I'm just a greedy bee. I just want more comics. So more comics with these characters.
And there's also a lot of underlying extra mysteries about Winslow that didn't get fully revealed.
Yeah, I know, right? I think about that.
So that would be fun stuff to explore in the future if they feel like it.
Yeah, for sure. It makes you wonder if these tag team finalists may have some, four-way collaboration plans in the store possibly.
Maybe. It sounds like you're trying to give them that idea.
I'm just saying, the seed is there and there's fertile soil. I'm just gonna, just stick it in there, nudge it with a thumb. I really enjoy the tag team tournament, and I love the concept that people come together and are told to collab with characters that are either, super aligned or couldn't be more opposite. Sometimes those are even more fun. It's so great to see artists coming together and working on a thing and making it bigger than themselves. And I think that's so encompassed in this tourney. And I'm so glad with the turnout and just the quality of art. Like, people really brought their A game, and these finalists were no exception.
Yeah, I've honestly come to a point in the site where the collaboration battles and collaboration tournaments, anything that involves people in a team working together, are the ones that I get most hyped for.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think? I mean, this collaboration hype has been happening even before Arma, but do you think that just Arma sort of put the needle in the arm for people to work together more, or is this more of the 2020 thing?
Well, I would like to hope that we helped inspire some folks with the stuff that we helped put out, and not just
Also, side note for those who don't know, Pyras was part of the Defender team for Arma, so that's what we're talking about. Just FYI.
I would hope that we helped inspire some of the other folks to go out there and collaborate, not just us, but also the other two teams that did collaborations in the same month for the same theme.
Right? It's just fun to work with other artists, and it's fun to see what you guys like bring together.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all we got. A big congrats to the two finalists, and an even bigger congrats to everyone who was involved in the tag team tournament. It was an amazing tournament.
All four of you deserve to be up there.
Yeah, for sure. A trophy for everyone. But okay, we still have time. Why are we still here? It's because we have a super secret mystery battle that we're going to be talking to you guys about. And it's going to be me and Pi with our mouths just saying stuff. And this super secret mystery battle is none other than Welcoming Smackdown, featuring Rantu and Eyes or Ice? AIZ. I'm just going to say Eyes.
With Eyes.
Yeah, Eyes. It was a 2-week battle that recently wrapped on December 5th, and I believe it was the first battle for both of these relatively new artists. The winner of said smack was Ran Zombie, so a huge congrats to you. And let me real quickly toss a link in the chat so that everybody can follow along. Let me see. And while we're here, because I gave you guys a link, toss them a comment or 3. Everybody likes feedback while you follow along with what we have to say. So how about you get started, Pi?
Okay. So, honestly, I don't have many complaints for the story on either side. They're both fun, and they're simple tales that help establish who both characters are in the world. It's just interesting that they both went the same route in many ways. I don't know if that was planned, but it was a bit of serendipity that helped characterize them both solidly for the rest of us. And for I'll talk about Ran Zombie's side first.
All right, cool, because that's the order that I have.
Yeah. Character facial expression is very strong, but the line art is a bit on the weak side here. And I noticed that they had said that they were starting digital inking with that comic, and you can tell that they're not very comfortable with digital inking just yet.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I super commend the fact that even though pencils are their comfort zone, it's great to see them going outside of their comfort zone and trying inks and digital work. I think that they're primarily traditional, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely love to pick the artist's brain just to know how they found the experience and whether or not they want to continue experimenting in that vein. It's such a scary thing to try something new and put it out there just to see how it lands. If there's any place to do experimentation, especially in comics, it's definitely on Inner Void. I love it when people go you know what? I've never done this before. I'm going to get into a battle and do that.
Yeah, I would strongly recommend to practice with different ink brushes. Try and get one that's more comfortable your side. You don't have to default to just the one that looks nice at first. Definitely experiment a bit to see if you get the one that really sells what your pencils would normally look like.
But I would caution, it's such a gateway drug. Once you start finding fancy brushes, you just go ham and you start collecting them like Pokemon cards or something.
Oh, it is an addiction, but
isn't it? You're I need all the brushes.
I wouldn't say it's bad though. I honestly tell everybody, just get all the brushes.
Yeah, for sure.
You never know when you'll need one. Even the ones that you'd forget. One other thing I would say. The truth. Yeah. One other thing I would say is to study up on Squid's side of this battle for their word balloons. Because looking between both comics, you can tell that Squid's got a better handle of it right now. They either got more experience with it, or they've just got a better handle of it and how to give it more professional looking lettering and word balloons.
This is such a side note co-host, like doff of my hat to you, but I love the fact that you compare the battles together kind of like they're both wrestlers, and you're like, you know what, Squid had a good left hook there with those word bubbles, so if you want to get good, you got to watch out for that. I think that's really great.
I think it's important to learn from your opponent.
Oh
Where you
yeah,
can.
for sure. Like it win or lose, I love when people battle because there's so much that you can learn or even go like, oh, I want to try that or figure that style out with your opponent.
Hmm. And all these little details together. I tend to like to nitpick about these little things like word balloons and stuff like that. But honestly, these little details they add up to help with the overall polish of the comic.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
you can have two comics that look really nice, but then when you have one that has so-so word balloons and one has professional grade word balloons, that one's going to get the half point to 1 point above the other consistently.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. Do you have anything else to add?
That's all I've got for Ran Zombie side.
All right. Well, I got stuff to say. I personally love the nods to some of the Void baddies lurking here and there within the massive wanted posters that Rantu picks up when the comic opens. It shows that the artist has done their comic-y homework, and I just wanted to say that I really appreciate that you're trying to plug this guy into a community established world that is Enter Void that all the artists have made, and you're just like, I appreciate that. I want to get in on that, and I want to infuse my character and influence that world. And I just think that's really neat. And I doff my hat to you. And while we're in the neighborhood, I would encourage you to try your hand at, speaking of inks and everything, to try your hand at spot blacks or more of that graphic style that you attempted on the first two panels. Let me
Yeah,
see if I can screen cap them because I honestly thought that when I first saw them, that this was going to be what the comic was going to look like. And I was like, oh, he's trying something. Well, I don't even know if they're he. This artist is trying something new. And I really thought it was neat. Give me 1 second. But then, like, you see such a lack of the spot blacks throughout the rest of the comics that I was just like, oh man, I really wanted more of that. Like, it felt heavy. It felt like, but ow,
I
and
can't speak for
it
them,
felt like really full.
I can't speak for them, but it might have been possible they were planning that and then maybe ran out
Ah,
of
like
time.
time constraints. Yeah,
Right.
I can totally understand that for sure. Oh, that deadline keeps it from all the good stuff. Let me see. Uh, let me see. There was, comparatively between the two comics, this one sort of lacked in background and sort of environmental personality, which I feel that was much more apparent because your characters are so expressive and so detailed. It seems a shame to have all of that detail sort of just be in a blank vacuum of white space, which is why I think those first two panels got me too excited because you had such a stylization to that I wanted infused in the rest of the comic. Let me see. Midway down on your second page, I believe. Well, let me see. You have what I assume is Rantu's hand holding the wanted poster for eyes, but your paneling doesn't seem to clearly indicate that we've moved on to a different scene. For a minute there, I thought it was her holding up her own wanted poster, and it threw me, which I think just lends itself to possibly working on your panel placement and finding like creative ways to go about and do that. Which I mean, Pi, maybe you can chime in here because I'm not really, well, I don't want to say I'm not a fan because it's kind of growing on me, but I'm not really one to do that webtoon scrolling format. So maybe you have thoughts on that.
Thoughts on the
Like how
setup
to,
of the.
yeah, how to set up like panel placement and stuff with this sort of webtoon scrolling format.
Well, those that have read mine will know that I'm actually I actually work mine a little different. I try to use more of the gutter space as
Mm-hmm.
possible, so that each of the panels compositions are as filled up as possible to have a nice look to it. So I may be the wrong person to ask in terms of how in terms of how Rantu's webcomic format is being done. I would, however, take advantage of the gutter space if you want to stretch time out for a scene.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's a good comic pro tip. A lot of people forget that like the closer panels are, the more time or the less time there is between those two actions, but the more you space it out, it gives that not only the scene time to breathe, but it gives sort of a notion of more than seconds. It's more minutes.
Yeah, one of the great things about the webtoon format is that you have that extra control of time and pacing with your comics, but by stretching out gutters, basically having this infinite scroll means you can determine to a greater degree how long we are on each panel.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree with that. Like, if people are looking for webtoons or just a scrolling format that can be a bit of inspo, I highly recommend Spaceboy, which I think is on webtoons. It was recommended to me by a voider by the name of Goldie, and I personally like super duper dig it. Like the way that they use, because it's sort of like a space sci-fi, but a neighborhood epic, and the way that the artist uses the passage of time with their, city vistas or the, nebulous of space, and sort of sweeps and moves it and kind of even steps outside the box with panels. I think it's a great way to show the passage of time and use your space to the best of your abilities with this new format. But that's just me. I'm just, a nobody who hasn't really used that format yet. So that's just more of my aesthetic.
The scene that you actually showed here, where Rantu's looking at the wanted page, is actually a good example.
I love it so much.
Where you could have rearranged the panels to for better comedic effect. The way it's laid out right now, it feels pretty quick in sequence. You could drag the other two panels down, drag the third panel further down. This gives us more time to focus on each panel for the eye naturally. So we get a good look at his expression, his comedic pause as he looks back to the paper and then comes back up.
I would note, I super dig that you're working with your sound effects, like this pow as a sort of reaction to that 3-panel, like, she has to be pretty, is really great. Don't be afraid to step outside of your panels. Like, I see that there's a tangent with the W, with the panel line. Feel free to stick that out to give sort of that impact more of an oomph. And these are like little, just nitpicky things that I don't want to say like make or break anything, but they're great details and just aesthetic final touches to make your comic look great.
Yeah, as you get more comfortable in the medium, you want to try and experiment when possible.
Yeah, for sure. And just creative solutions on placement and composition is stuff that's going to come with practice and stuff. And I hope that you do more of that. And there goes my dog. I apologize for the barks. And that's all I got. Do you have any final words?
No final words on Ran Zombie's side. I think we're good with that.
All right. Let's hit it to the squid.
Okay. So Squid's side, I actually quite enjoyed visually. Good polished line art, composition all around is pretty solid. The screen tone use is fun. There's one or two versions of the tone that are a little harsh on the line art, so that's something I would keep an eye on in the future.
What does it mean by harsh on the line art?
A little harsh on the line art means that the dots are so solid that you start to lose some of the line art that goes around it.
Oh, the halftones, you mean?
Right, the dots with the screen halftones that's going on there. And
Gotcha.
It doesn't happen very often. He actually uses it pretty effectively, but there are some times where it feels like it's taking over the panel.
No, like it's kind of overwhelming. Yeah, I can get that.
Yeah, in the top of page 3, they're kind of so bold that they characters sort of sink into the background a bit.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's really all I have about it, though. I actually really enjoyed the look of this comic.
Right. I personally really like the halftones. It's not often you see them in comics. I think the last artist I can even think of who is actively using halftones, and not even like organized halftones, it's just sort of incongruous ones is Cab, I believe. But for this, it really added to the grittiness of the comic, and I really appreciated that, especially with the setting, because this whole confrontation primarily happens in the tried and true setting of Enter Void, which is an alley. So it was great to have that like extra grit and sort of Sin Cityness of it.
Yeah.
That's
I
it.
remember when I
Oh,
did
go ahead.
I remember when I did have screen tones myself for one of my battles. It was a lot of fun, but it took a lot of extra time to really think about the type of tone to use for which side where.
Right? It's easy to get kind of overboard on it because it's so much fun to use that you don't realize that it's like too much frosting on a cake.
Right.
Also, this fight question mark was really, really fun. Exclamation point. It really was. From like the trash lid head lopping frisbee move to the gross out of Rantu's skin coming off when Eyes bites him. This actually felt like an actual hobo battle, which I believe Ravana noted in the comments. And it was just cranked to avoid frequency, which I thought was hilarious. It also offered both characters a chance to shine. It didn't really feel grossly skewed for either person. It wasn't like, oh, I'm a big bad and this fight means nothing to me and I'm going to crush you. There were stakes on either side, and I honestly didn't know who was going to come out on top as I went page to page, which made it exciting for me. It made me go like, oh, I got to know what happens next, which I think is the whole mood that you want your readers to be in when you're making a comic. Also, your sound effects were a hoot. I know that Pyras just shared it with me. It's like hive mind. You know what I'm going to say. I love the yeet into the trash can on page 7. Just that sound effect just made me laugh out loud. I was like, oh man, that's what the kids are saying these days. I get it. I got that reference.
The sound effects in general for the comic were pretty creative and useful.
Yeah, they must have been listening to some lectures that we may or may not had about sound effects because these are pretty good. Like, if anything, I would just encourage you to go ham. Like, I love that like discordant sound note or musical note when he slams down his guitar. Like, I want to see that like pumped up. I want to see it sort of like with reverb and just sticking out of the panel. Make it this big obnoxious thing, which should be like an obnoxious sound. Let me see. You had backgrounds, you had angles, and you had like just the details, like even the freaking tread on the bottom of Rantu's shoe. It was just chef kiss. Like, these are the little details that when reading a comic, I completely appreciate.
Absolutely.
You're sharing the same panels I shared.
Yeah.
No, but it was funny. When I was looking for that super secret comic to talk about after Tag Team, I was like looking at the front page and I was looking at the recently completed and I was all like, oh man, I really want to show this one more love, especially with the fact that this is like a first battle for the pair of them. And I don't know, I think it's kind of like a little, with all the craziness that happens and all the comics that we're getting like on the site lately, I feel that some of the comics kind of don't get as much love as they should. And I hope that at least in a little way that Junkcast and your guys' comments, which I hope may be coming, could help elevate those people that may get lost in the cracks.
Yeah. There's something I wanted to say also about this panel that we both shared.
Which one? The long shadow?
This long shadow panel is really,
I love it.
Really great panel. And it's panels like these that are going to make folks remember the comic after they finish reading. And I would strongly recommend for artists to try and have at least one panel like this in your comic. That
would you call that the iconic panel?
It would be, yeah. I would actually say it's the iconic panel for this comic. Try and come up with an iconic panel for your comic. I know that sometimes when we're on the deadline and we're rushing, we sort of try and go through the motions when it comes to panel composition, when it comes to layout, that sometimes we feel like we're being rushed and we don't have time to really think of a nice creative looking panel.
We go through the 7 stages of grief while making the comic.
But I would say to try and get at least one panel that looks really good like this, because at the end of the day, at least you're leaving the reader with one thing that they'll remember about the comic going forward.
Yeah, and I don't know if Squid is in this chat or if you're going to listen to this Junkcast, but if you do, or if anybody knows them, I want you to call them out and please ask them to make this panel a banner because this is like a banner grade stuff that I would love to see on the website.
Yeah.
Right? It's even like the same, like, it almost looks like the right dimensions. Do it. Just do it. Don't be a coward. Do it. But yeah, that is all I got. Nothing but good things, critical things, and talkative things. Any last words, Pi?
No last words on my end. Congratulations to both of you.
Yeah. And congratulations again to the tag team tournament finalists, as well as our super secret person, and as well as the tag team finalists and super secret person. Did I get everybody? Yeah, I covered everyone. Thanks again for listening, you guys. This was rather a bit of a short one, but I hope to be able, now that we're going in, I believe, to 2021. What do you mean, I believe? Of course we are.
Yeah.
I hope that with all the tournaments that we have coming up, that we can talk more about those. Or if you guys want to hear more about just regular battles, we can do that as well. We usually, after the recordings, sort of hang out, chit chat, and have you guys unmute and just give feedback. So if you guys want to hear or see different things or see different features or even different co-hosts, I'm happy to listen. And with that, we outie. Thanks so much for listening, everybody.
Bye-bye.